The reaction to With Love Meghan Season 2 was so bad, even I forgot to do a follow-up video on it yesterday.
Who wants this stuff? Well, I mean, what a load of crap. What's it for?
Is Meghan and Harry's Netflix deal worth the paper it's printed on?
Taylor Swift stole her announcement thunder.
And there she is again, cutting, not just cutting, slicing bread, slicing fruit, slicing vegetables. Basically, she spends most of this show slicing things.
It was framed as a renewal, a triumphant extension, the kind of headline that suggests all is well in Montecito. But behind the polished smiles and the press release language, rumor has it this was no champagne-popping victory.
There it is again, a swirling mass of very average-looking food, salads, crumbling cheese on them, pastries, flowers everywhere.
According to multiple whispers in the industry, Meghan and Harry's latest Netflix agreement looks less like a blank check and more like a quiet probation period, a reset dressed up as a win. On paper, it is still a partnership. They still have that coveted first-look relationship, which means Netflix hears their pitches before anyone else. But insiders claim the fine print tells a different story this time. Gone are the eye-watering lump sums that once had everyone talking about a $100 million mega deal. Instead, this alleged arrangement leans heavily on deliverables, milestones, and proof that their content can hold attention from start to finish.
If you came up with the picture of an annoying, insufferable white woman, it would be Meghan Markle, even though she's not white.
Think of it like a trial run, but in full public view. Industry veterans will tell you, a first-look deal can be a powerhouse move when the content pipeline is strong. But it can also be a cage, one where every pitch is scrutinized, every budget release tied to hitting a precise metric. And according to one source familiar with these kinds of negotiations, it is no longer about potential, it is about performance. The whispers say the shift came quietly. No dramatic announcement, no outright mention that the terms had changed. The public narrative focused on upcoming projects, feel-good specials, docu-series with a humanitarian edge, even a return to the cozy lifestyle content that once had viewers curious. But the backroom talk paints a different picture.
It's also about that ego, isn't it? The narcissism. She needs a mug on the front pages of magazines. She needs to be receiving these fake awards and have people fawning over her. And
this is Netflix asking for receipts before writing big checks. And it is not just about whether something trends on release day. Streaming platforms live and die by watch time, by the number of viewers who make it from the opening scene to the final credits. Insiders allege that Meghan and Harry's new deal may hinge on completion rates and audience retention curves, those cold, hard numbers that can turn a glossy project into a line-item loss overnight. It is a sharp contrast to the early days, when buzz alone seemed enough to secure multi-year commitments. Back then, the mere idea of a Sussex-branded docu-series could send media into a frenzy. Now, rumor has it, Netflix is holding their cards close. They want to see the projects, test the audience response, and only then decide how far to open the budget gate. To the outside world, this all looks like business as usual.
And doing the hand holding and putting her hand on her husband's chest and beaming up at him like they've only just met and they're still in love.
Well, she says they still get butterflies. She says they still get butterflies.
But if the whispers are true, the stakes have quietly climbed. Every idea they bring forward is being weighed, not just for its storytelling, but for its ability to convert attention into hours watched. That kind of pressure changes the creative process. It makes you think twice before approving a scene, or choosing a topic, or deciding whether to lean into controversy. And according to one Hollywood insider, the message from Netflix is crystal clear: prove it. But that was only the beginning, because buried deeper in the alleged fine print is a clause that could make or break the entire partnership in record time. That phrase, prove it, sounds simple enough, but in the language of streaming contracts it can be a loaded weapon. And according to sources close to the deal, Meghan and Harry's alleged prove it clause might be the single most important line in the entire agreement. Whispers say it is not buried under pages of legal jargon. It is right there, clear enough for anyone reading to know exactly what it means.
Sorry, wait, I'm gonna read it, but I have to just laugh. A big laugh. This idea that Meghan Markle is sitting in her little Montecito house, big Montecito house, and fuming over the idea of, I can't believe Taylor did that.
The couple reportedly has to meet certain viewing metrics, watch time, completion rates, and even specific audience engagement scores before additional projects are greenlit or budgets are expanded. In other words, it is not enough to deliver a show, the show has to deliver numbers. And those numbers are not small. One insider claimed the targets are ambitious, almost aggressive, designed to test whether the Sussex brand can still pull in audiences beyond the first 24 hours of a release. Netflix, like every major streamer, knows that quick hype without sustained viewership is a recipe for loss. So the clause allegedly demands proof that their content keeps people watching from the first second to the last, and then ideally clicking on the next Sussex project right after. However, the effect of such a clause is enormous. It changes the entire energy behind each production. Creative risks become calculated gambles. Storylines are examined not just for their emotional impact, but for their binge-worthiness. Every scene is weighed against one question: will this keep the audience from clicking away? Some in the industry believe this is Netflix's way of taking back control after what they see as an underwhelming return on that initial mega deal.
Call the woman humble. I think that's a little extreme. I don't know if I've ever seen Meghan Markle humble.
She's about as humble as the Queen of Sheba.
The early Sussex projects sparked headlines, yes, but not all of them delivered blockbuster streaming numbers. The alleged clause is a way of ensuring that every future project is built for performance, whether that means more dramatic reveals, more celebrity cameos, or a tighter edit that forces the story to move faster. There is also talk of quarterly performance reviews, an unusual but not unheard of practice in first-look agreements. These check-ins, sources claim, would give Netflix the ability to pause, adjust, or even quietly cancel future projects if performance metrics are not met. Imagine working under the knowledge that your next episode might be your last unless the previous one hits a certain threshold. That is the level of pressure we are allegedly talking about here. And if the clause is as strict as insiders suggest, it could explain the sudden shift in the couple's public calendar. More carefully timed appearances, strategic photo ops, buzz-friendly soundbites that feel engineered to feed into upcoming releases. Everything, rumor has it, is now a chess move in service of keeping that prove-it clause satisfied. One Hollywood veteran put it bluntly: if they crush it, Netflix will double down. If they miss even once, the safety net is gone. But the real kicker? This clause is said to work hand in hand with another little-known provision.
We just dropped our trailer. Why couldn't she wait? What is this? She's sealing on my thunder!
One that gives Netflix an exit window so fast the entire partnership could be over before most people even realize it happened. The phrase exit window sounds harmless enough, like a polite escape route for both sides if things are not working out. But in the world of high-stakes streaming deals, it is more like a trapdoor, one that can swing open without warning. And according to industry whispers, Meghan and Harry's alleged Netflix contract contains exactly that. Sources claim this provision allows Netflix to walk away within a surprisingly short period if performance targets are missed early in the game. We are not talking about years of runway. We are talking months. If those first few releases under the new agreement fail to meet the streaming giant's benchmarks, Netflix reportedly has the right to scale back the deal, freeze new development, or quietly let the entire partnership dissolve. On the surface, that might sound fair. Why keep funding projects that do not deliver? But for Meghan and Harry, it changes the stakes entirely. It means that their upcoming projects are not just opportunities, they are litmus tests. Every title, every episode, every trailer becomes a referendum on whether the Sussex brand can still move the needle in an industry obsessed with hard numbers. One source described it as a countdown clock you can't see. The couple might have until a specific date, tied to release schedules, to prove their worth. And if they do not, the exit window allegedly swings open, and Netflix walks away with minimal financial loss.
It's like, it seems so ridiculous that, no, why would she? But I do believe it. I totally believe it. Whether, like...
For a brand that has leaned so heavily on the prestige of their streaming deal, the optics of such a quiet retreat could be brutal. It is worth noting that exit clauses like this are not unusual when studios feel the need to protect themselves, but in this case, the rumor has an extra layer. The window is paired with that prove-it clause from Section 2, which means that the very same performance data that controls their budgets could also trigger their dismissal. That is a level of contractual tension few celebrity production teams are equipped to navigate. And then there is the PR dimension. Imagine the headlines if word got out that Netflix exercised its right to walk away early. The Sussex narrative, carefully built around being in demand, in control, and in partnership with a top-tier streamer, could unravel in a single news cycle. That is why insiders allege there is a parallel effort happening right now, a PR push to keep the focus on the slate of upcoming content, rather than the terms under which it is being made. Even the choice of which projects to launch first seems strategic. Sources speculate that the couple is leading with the most broadly appealing, emotionally resonant ideas in their arsenal, content that has the best shot at universal engagement. It is not just about telling their stories anymore, it is about survival in a marketplace where viewer drop-off is a death sentence.
We spent so much time making sure we had so much more inventory. That's why we took the time, and you guys are doing it again. We're nearly sold out on everything, and I can't believe it. Even flower sprinkles, which I knew was going to be the big one again, so that has more inventory than all of it. And that's also about to sell out.
One Hollywood insider summed it up with a chilling simplicity. You do not get a second shot at a first season, and they know it. But as sharp as this exit window sounds, it is only part of the tightening grip. Because buried just a few paragraphs later, there is talk of a budget cap. one that could force the Sussexes to make big sacrifices in how they create. The words budget cap might not sound as threatening as exit window, but in the fast-moving world of prestige streaming, they can be just as devastating. According to insiders, Meghan and Harry's renewed Netflix deal allegedly comes with exactly that. An invisible ceiling on spending that shapes every creative choice before a single scene is filmed. Whispers suggest this is not a traditional budget in the sense of here is the amount you get for the whole project. Instead, it is a tiered release of funds. Each stage of the production reportedly unlocks the next round of money only if the current stage meets specific performance or quality checks. Think of it like a locked vault. Deliver something strong, the vault opens, and the next phase is funded. Deliver something weak, and the vault stays shut. And then there is the alleged soft cap hard benchmark approach. A soft cap means there is technically room to go higher, but the hard benchmarks mean that number is almost impossible to exceed without spectacular results. In other words, they could get more money, but only if their content is performing at levels most producers would struggle to hit.
That's right. Nothing says that you're impossible to work for a bit of a ball ache and an axe grinder than constantly cycling through various members of staff like hot dinners.
For Meghan and Harry, that means less freedom to experiment and more incentive to play it safe, chasing the kinds of content Netflix knows can hold viewers. One source compared it to shooting a film with a stopwatch running over your shoulder. Every creative decision becomes about cost efficiency, where to shoot, how many locations to use, how much star power to bring in, and how long the edit can take before it becomes too expensive for the capped budget. The budget cap, insiders allege, is not just about limiting risk, it is about controlling narrative scope. Lavish scenes, globe-trotting storylines, or elaborate sets all require spending that now has to be justified in hard numbers before it is approved. This could be why some of the couple's new projects appear to have a more intimate, contained feel compared to the sweeping production style of their earliest Netflix work. And here is the quiet irony. A capped budget also limits how much spectacle they can put on screen. Yet spectacle is often what drives early viewership spikes. Without that high-gloss appeal, their content has to rely entirely on emotional pull and pacing to keep audiences locked in until the end. If those elements do not land perfectly, the prove it clause and the exit window we talked about earlier could come into play faster than anyone expects. Industry chatter paints a picture of Netflix using this structure to keep creative power firmly in their hands, while giving the Sussexes just enough room to prove they can still deliver. It is a delicate dance, one that can feel supportive when numbers are strong, but suffocating when they are not. One Hollywood veteran put it in blunt terms: a budget cap is not just about money, it is a leash. And according to some whispers, that leash gets even shorter when you factor in the new wave of creative oversight, the kind of control that can reshape a show from top to bottom before it ever reaches the audience.
So it seems to me they're resorting to becoming basically a version of the Royal Kardashians. We can't wait for it.
Creative control. For most production companies, it is the crown jewel, the ability to shape your work exactly how you want, to let your vision lead without interference. But according to insiders, Meghan and Harry's latest Netflix arrangement has tilted that balance in a very different direction. The whispers say the streamer now holds a far heavier hand in shaping their projects, with more oversight, more notes, and more authority to demand changes before anything goes live. Industry sources speculate that this shift is directly tied to the prove it era we talked about earlier. When a platform is tying your funding to your performance, they also want to control as many variables as possible. That means testing scenes with sample audiences, cutting slower segments, and pushing for moments that spike engagement. For the Sussexes, that reportedly translates to fewer indulgent montages and more moments designed to grab attention within seconds. And while every network gives notes, the rumor is that these notes are no longer gentle suggestions, they are marching orders. If a scene feels off-brand for Netflix's target demographic, it can be rewritten, reshot, or cut entirely. If a storyline does not build toward a measurable emotional peak, it might not survive the edit at all. Some sources claim this is why upcoming projects under the new deal appear to lean harder into universal safe narratives, humanitarian stories, seasonal specials, and aspirational lifestyle content, rather than anything that could polarize audiences. Meghan and Harry are still in the room, but the room now has more voices and the loudest one belongs to the platform footing the bill. This shift allegedly extends beyond storylines. Even visual tone is up for review. Insiders say there is a push for a less glossy, more grounded look in their content, as though the streamer wants to strip away any hint of overproduction and replace it with what feels authentic, whether or not it actually is. That might sound like a creative choice, but in practice, it is also a cost choice. Fewer locations, simpler sets, shorter shoot schedules. It is all part of the same equation. Keep the budget lean, keep the retention rates high. For Meghan, who has often leaned into a high-style, high-image presentation, this alleged creative shift could be both a challenge and a risk. For Harry, who has spoken about wanting raw, unfiltered stories, it might align more closely with his instincts, but only if the stories still get told the way they intend. because in this new arrangement, final cut does not really belong to them. One producer familiar with how these deals work described it plainly. They are not steering the ship anymore, they are just suggesting where it should go. And it is within this new framework that one upcoming project stands out, the holiday special. On the surface, it is festive, warm, and entirely in their brand wheelhouse, but insiders suggest it is also something else entirely. A carefully chosen project meant to serve as a live performance review. On the surface, a holiday special sounds like the safest project in the world. Cozy lighting, familiar traditions, maybe a dash of celebrity cameos. What could possibly go wrong? But according to industry chatter, Meghan and Harry's upcoming holiday special is not just a warm seasonal event. It is allegedly a high-stakes stress test designed to measure whether they can deliver the kind of universal hit Netflix needs to justify their renewed deal. Why a holiday special? One insider explained it this way: you get one chance every year to own that festive slot. If you can grab it, you pull in a massive, diverse audience. If you miss, it's glaring. For Meghan and Harry, that means the stakes are sky high. The special will reportedly be analyzed from every angle: viewership numbers in the first 24 hours, completion rates across multiple demographics, even social media engagement tied to specific moments in the episode. And here's where it gets even trickier. A holiday special isn't just a test of creative charm, it's a test of timing. The release window is crowded with major studio films, established Christmas classics, and big-budget streaming events. To compete, the Sussexes need to land something that feels fresh but familiar, heartfelt but buzzworthy. In other words, it has to tick every box Netflix cares about, while also standing out from the holiday noise. Rumor has it the couple's team has been quietly engineering every beat of the special to hit these targets. The guest list, the location, even the pacing of the storytelling, all allegedly built around maximizing engagement. Insiders say there are planned viral moments designed to circulate on TikTok and Instagram, pulling new viewers back to the main feature. Think of it as holiday cheer with a measurable ROI. But the irony is that this approach can also backfire. Over-engineered content can feel manufactured, and audiences are more media savvy than ever. If the special comes off as too calculated, it could lose the very authenticity Netflix claims to be pushing for in this new era of Sussex content. That's the knife's edge Meghan and Harry are allegedly walking right now, crafting something with the polish of a royal gala but the heart of a living room gathering. Another layer to the pressure? Sources suggest this holiday special might be positioned as the first big deliverable under the Prove It clause. That means its numbers won't just affect whether more projects get greenlit, they could directly influence whether Netflix loosens the budget cap for their next productions. In other words, the warm glow of holiday lights could be hiding the cold reality of a performance review. A veteran producer put it bluntly: if they crush it, the next pitch gets a yes. If they miss, you start hearing about creative differences. And looming right behind this holiday gamble is something even more revealing: the much-anticipated second season of their lifestyle docuseries. Because if the holiday special is a single test, the second season is a semester-long report card. If the holiday special is the one-shot pop quiz, then the second season of their lifestyle docuseries is the full semester exam, the kind that gets graded in permanent ink. This is the project Netflix insiders are allegedly watching most closely, because it offers the clearest data on whether Meghan and Harry can hold an audience beyond the initial curiosity factor. Season 1 had novelty on its side. It was the first peek inside their world post-royal life, packaged with that unmistakable Sussex branding. People tuned in to see what they would say, what they would reveal, and maybe even what they would leave unsaid. But Season 2 is a different beast. Without the shock of a debut, it has to stand entirely on content, pacing, and how much of a connection it can forge with viewers. Sources claim this is why Netflix's alleged creative oversight is in overdrive for this season. Everything from the opening shot to the final frame is being tested for retention. The streamer reportedly wants faster hooks, more dynamic scene changes, and just enough tension to keep audiences binging through multiple episodes without drifting off to something else. That means less meandering personal reflection and more structured narrative arcs designed to pay off by the end of each episode. And then there's the optics. Early teasers for Season 2 have already drawn chatter online, partly because of the lavish visual cues, designer wardrobes, high-end interiors, and carefully staged settings. For some viewers, it's aspirational. For others, it clashes with the idea of relatable storytelling. Insiders say Netflix is paying close attention to that reaction, because public sentiment around the teasers could foreshadow how the episodes perform when they drop. The stakes are even higher because this season, rumor has it, is functioning as a live audit. Each episode's performance metrics, completion rates, watch time averages, and rewatch spikes are allegedly being fed straight into decision-making for the Sussexes' future slate. If one episode underperforms, it could raise questions about whether the couple's storytelling style is sustainable for long-term audience loyalty. Behind the scenes, that kind of pressure can change the creative process entirely. Writers and producers might lean harder into drama or conflict to keep viewers engaged, even if it risks backlash. Promotional appearances could be timed specifically to coincide with episode drops, creating a cycle of media attention that feeds back into the show's numbers. One streaming analyst summed it up in a way that's hard to ignore. A first season builds curiosity, a second season decides your future. And while all eyes will be on the viewership stats, there's a quieter subplot unfolding at the same time. Rumors of a built-in cross-promotion strategy, where moments from the series allegedly weave in subtle nods to Meghan's lifestyle ventures. Whether that's smart brand synergy or risky overreach depends entirely on how audiences respond. Because if the audience feels they're watching a show that doubles as an ad, the scoreboard could start looking a lot less forgiving. The whispers about cross-promotion have been growing louder, and if they are true, they could explain why some of the couple's projects feel more like brand showcases than pure storytelling. Insiders allege that Meghan and Harry's renewed Netflix deal might have buried deep within its terms a quiet synergy clause, one that allows for the integration of personal ventures into the content. On paper, it is smart business. If you already have millions of eyes on your series or special, why not plant subtle references to your other projects? A strategically placed product on a countertop, a passing comment about a wine label, a scene set in a space that just happens to be tied to a brand. None of it has to feel like a commercial. But for the keen-eyed viewer, it is unmistakable. And for Meghan, whose lifestyle brand is still in its growth phase, this kind of exposure could be invaluable. You are not just watching a holiday special or a documentary. You are walking through an extended showroom, dressed up as narrative. It is the kind of soft sell that marketing teams dream about because it can feel organic while still pushing the brand forward. The risk, however, is just as clear. Audiences can spot manufactured moments from a mile away, especially in an era where product placement is both everywhere and under constant scrutiny. If viewers begin to feel that the Sussexes' Netflix content is simply a delivery system for their side ventures, engagement could drop. And in the Prove It era, a drop in engagement is not just a bad look, it could have contractual consequences. There is also the question of balance. Too little integration, and the opportunity is wasted. Too much, and the show becomes a brand ad. Industry sources say the Sussexes are walking a tightrope here, because they are not just balancing creative integrity with commercial gain. They are doing it under the watchful eye of Netflix executives, who reportedly have their own opinions about what works and what crosses the line. Some in Hollywood view this alleged synergy clause as Netflix protecting its investment. If Meghan and Harry's other ventures gain traction thanks to their shows, it boosts the couple's overall relevance, which in turn makes their Netflix projects more marketable. Others see it as a calculated risk, because tying the brand too closely to the content could backfire if either side of the equation underperforms. And then there is the palace-adjacent angle. Royal watchers speculate that any overt brand integration could stir up fresh criticism, especially from those who believe the couple is still trading on their titles and connections. Even if the product placement is subtle, the symbolism might be enough to reignite debates about using royal association for commercial purposes. One entertainment insider summed it up neatly: it is a win-win until it is not. But while the public debates whether the Sussexes are selling stories or selling brands, another layer of reaction has been quietly building inside the industry and inside the palace, and those two worlds are reading the Netflix reset in very different ways. Behind the curtain, the reactions to Meghan and Harry's alleged Netflix downgrade could not be more divided. In Hollywood boardrooms, the move is being read as a pragmatic business decision. Netflix, like any streamer, wants to protect its investment and ensure its partners are delivering consistent, bankable content. In palace-adjacent circles, however, the whispers carry a different tone entirely. Some see it as a quiet vindication, proof that the Sussex star power is not as untouchable as it once seemed. Industry insiders describe the streaming giant's new terms as a performance safeguard, a common tactic when a partner's early work generates more headlines than sustained viewership. In that sense, the alleged prove it clause, exit window, and budget caps are simply tools for accountability. But others believe there is an unspoken subtext. Netflix is now less willing to bankroll brand prestige without hard numbers to back it up. That shift, they say, signals a change in how the Sussexes are viewed. Not as guaranteed headline makers, but as producers who must compete on the same playing field as everyone else. Meanwhile, within royal watching communities, the narrative feels sharper. The theory there is that this quiet contract reset shows the couple's commercial ventures are losing their luster. Whether that is fair or not, the optics of reduced terms feed neatly into a storyline that the palace loyalists have been pushing for years, that life outside the firm is proving far more challenging than Meghan and Harry anticipated. Even within the Sussexes' own circle, the response appears mixed. A handful of allies in the entertainment world are said to see the new deal as a healthy push, something that could sharpen the couple's creative instincts. Others, however, reportedly worry that the increased oversight and pressure to deliver will strip away the unique personal voice that drew audiences in the first place. One source put it this way: it is hard to sound authentic when you know every word is being run through a corporate filter. Then there is the sponsor factor. Brands that once saw Meghan and Harry as can't-miss partners may now be adopting a wait-and-see approach, watching to gauge how their next few projects perform under these new constraints. If the Sussexes deliver hits, sponsorship interest will surge. If they stumble, those same brands could quietly pivot to safer celebrity bets. And hanging over all of this is the palace reaction or lack thereof. While official statements are non-existent, royal commentators point out that certain senior royals have been noticeably quiet about the Sussexes' recent media moves. Whether that is a deliberate snub or simply indifference is impossible to say, but in the world of royal optics, silence can speak volumes. Still, perhaps the most pressing question is what happens if Meghan and Harry fall short of the benchmark set by this restructured deal? Because in the streaming world, you rarely get a second chance to prove yourself, and this time the consequences could be immediate. And that brings us to the final layer of the story. The endgame scenarios insiders are quietly debating behind closed doors. The conversations happening behind closed doors are not about what Meghan and Harry have already done. They are about what happens next, if the metrics come in high or if they fall flat. In the prove it era, every project is a fork in the road, and insiders say the possible outcomes could not be more different. If the couple delivers strong viewership numbers across their holiday special, their second season, and any follow-up projects already in development, Netflix may reward them quickly. That could mean looser budget caps, faster approvals, and the freedom to pursue more ambitious, high-concept ideas. In this best-case scenario, the Sussexes could even secure an extension beyond the current terms, locking in a more stable, long-term relationship with the streamer. One source described this path as the redemption arc, a way to prove that their brand has staying power in an industry that moves faster than ever. But the other path, the one no one wants to speak about too loudly, is far more brutal. If the content underperforms, the alleged exit window and budget restrictions could come into play almost immediately. Projects in early development might be shelved, marketing support could dry up, and the Sussexes' once headline-dominating Netflix partnership could fade quietly into the background. In the streaming business, that kind of cooling off can happen overnight. The ripple effects would not stop there. Sponsors already cautious might pull back even further. Future collaborations with other platforms could become harder to negotiate, as prospective partners would inevitably ask the same question. If Netflix wasn't convinced, why should we be? And in the relentless cycle of media coverage, the optics of a cooling partnership could easily be spun into a narrative of decline. From a creative standpoint, the stakes are just as high. Missing the mark under a performance-based deal can erode confidence, not just within Netflix but within the Sussexes' own team. Writers, directors, and producers may begin to second-guess every choice, fearful of investing time and energy into projects that might not see the light of day. That kind of environment can stifle the very creativity needed to turn things around. And then there is the emotional toll. For Meghan and Harry, whose public journey has been defined by controlling their own story, the idea of losing control both creatively and contractually cuts deep. This is not just about making TV. It is about proving they can thrive in a competitive industry on their own terms, even if those terms are increasingly shaped by someone else. Insiders say that for now, the Sussex camp is focused on executing the current slate with precision. The strategy is to build momentum, project by project, and keep the narrative centered on successes rather than speculation about what could go wrong. But everyone watching closely knows the truth. The margin for error is razor thin, because in this business, you are only as good as your last release. And for Meghan and Harry, the next few months will determine whether their Netflix chapter becomes a long-running saga or a cautionary tale. Drop your thoughts below. Like, subscribe, and stay tuned. The next video is waiting, and you will not believe what is coming next.